What's up, everyone? I'm sure you saw the last video of all the things I like and don't like about the new 2021 Nissan Titan. In this video, from a first gen Titan owner to a second gen Titan owner, I'm going to go over the things that I think are better about this truck and things that I think were better about the older Titan. Let's get into it. So this truck, the newer one, it definitely looks better. It just does, plain and simple. Another thing I think is better about this model is it's definitely faster. My 2011 Titan had 315 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque. This truck's got 400 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque. You can feel that horsepower a little bit. You could definitely feel that this truck is a little bit faster. Not saying the old one was a slouch, but this one's a little bit faster. Now, with that being said, this truck definitely drives smoother. You know, my lady drove it the other day and she said, yeah, this truck is smooth. But the older Titan, I think the older Titan drove better. It felt more like a truck. It felt more rugged. It felt more stout, you know, when you were going around things and over things. It just felt a little more, you know, rugged. And so that kind of plays into this truck is almost too nice because it's so smooth and it rides so nice that you almost don't want to mess anything up, you know. But the older Titan just seemed like it drove better. Something else I really like about this truck over the older one is the newer one obviously has better technology. The older truck had cruise control, power windows, you know, rear diff locker, things like that. But it didn't have all the extra cruise control features, the parking features, all the sensors. I really enjoy the backup camera. I really enjoy the cameras that are in the mirrors and the front camera. You know, when I pull into a parking spot and I'm getting close to the curb or a tree or just something, I can see how close I'm actually getting, and I very much appreciate that. So, you know, point for this truck. But hands down, the 2011 Nissan Titan first gen, that transmission is unmatched. It had your typical OG 5-speed. It did exactly what you wanted it to do, nothing more, nothing less. This truck has the 9-speed. We went over that in the other video, so I'm not really going to go into detail, but transmission is definitely better on the older Titan. You know, something else I really like about the newer one over the older one is the interior. Definitely nicer materials. The plastic looks a little nicer. I know that the older Titans, the plastics tend to look cheap and stuff like that. This definitely looks a lot better. It looks a lot more refined. It looks like I'm getting what I'm paying for. It's definitely keeping up with all the other, you know, Chevy, Dodge, Ford, all these guys. Very nice interior, very nice interior. Something I really liked about the older Titan was the tailgate storage. You know, if you knew the older Titans, you knew that they had a little door that pulled out and had a little lock and key, and that's where I used to keep my hitch, my receiver, lock, you know, all that good stuff, jumper cables. I used to keep it all in this little spot. Now I don't have it anymore. I guess now I have the little sides, you know, the little step to get into the tailgate. Now I got that. That's what we traded for. It's whatever. It's a new truck. So I definitely like that about the older one. Something else I really liked about the older Titan was the gear shifter. This one has that typical, you know, column, bam, throw it into gear and go. Some people have had issues with them, breaking them, whatever. The older Titan just had that shifter on the center console. Really liked it, you know, bam, bam, bam. So, you know, that a point for the old truck. Something I really like about this new truck more is the radio. You know, technology just wasn't where it was years ago, and so now technology is a lot better. This thing has the full touch screen, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. Like it, you know, I definitely like it. I like how I can, if I'm using the native GPS on the truck, I can get it to show the GPS on the actual speedometer. I like everything that the screen shows on the speedometer. The older Titan just told you, you know, your gas mileage, stuff like that, but it didn't do what this does, you know. So this definitely gets a point for having the technology. Something I really liked about the other truck was the older Titan was the bigger windshield. You know, it had the bigger windshield, the bigger windows, and so you could just see more out of it. This truck has a smaller windshield, sleeker look, and it definitely takes away from your viewing ability. So definitely a point to the older Titan with that one. Something I really like about this truck is it seems like it's quieter on the inside. It's a newer vehicle. It must have more materials on the inside, more soundproofing, stuff like that. But it is extremely quiet inside this truck. The other one was too, but you could just hear road noises and you could just hear more stuff. This one gets a point for being a little more quieter. And so for the last point, which is probably one of the biggest points, is I'm going to give to the older Titan, the 2011. It seemed more reliable. Between the 5-speed transmission, the OG 5.6 liter V8, it just had a lot less electronics and technology. Something I'm going to have to, deal with as time goes on is a lot of these parking sensors. And pretty much, I mean, we all know how the BMWs and Mercedes were in the 90s. It was nice to have, but it cost you more than the car was worth to get the electrical issues fixed, whatever was going on with it. And so kind of the same thing with these newer vehicles, is they're going to have a lot of issues with sensors failing and just this, that, and the other. Whereas the other Titan, I had 160 something thousand miles. I felt like I was going to get 500,000 plus out of that truck. Whereas this one, maybe the motor will make it that far. I don't think the transmission will. Definitely not all the sensors and everything. So, if I could buy that truck and this truck in the same year, I'd probably get the older truck if it was a newer version, a newer version of the same truck. But because it was getting older, I wanted a new truck. I wanted the new one. Here we are. We have the new one, and I absolutely love it. And so that's my video for what I think is better about the older Titan and the newer Titan. The newer Titan definitely has its pros and cons. The older one, I think, was a better truck. But for right now, the place I am in life, and everybody's always in a different place in life, this truck suits me better right now. But 2011 Titan gets this one. Thanks for watching, guys.